Hey, I'm Rick Roth from the In Kitchen. It's a kind of media company and bringing community together for information about all kinds of decorating and garments. And then I own a screen printing shop, embroidery, transfers, what have you, decorating shop. Not interior decoration, but mind you, but decoration in Rhode Island called Mirror Image.
Jason Murphy with SanMar's decorator and digital team. Basically, our team is out there to serve nothing but decorators around the industry.
I'm the newest face here. My name is Jamar Laster, and I'm the executive editor for Impressions Magazine. We are partnered with Impressions Expo, a trade show, and for the magazine, we cover industry events and trends and educate our readers on decorating techniques such as screen printing, embroidery, digital decorating, and heat-applied graphics.
So Jamar, you had a list of topics there. Let's hear them maybe.
Sure.
They I think are on a lot of people's minds. All the topics that you had. Let's try to hit on them a little bit.
Not a problem, Rick. So first, we at Impressions tend to get a lot of press releases from suppliers, and we get emails from our readers who are the decorators in the industry. And one of the things that they talk about, given this pandemic, is new opportunities when it comes to products outside of the norm. So obviously, as you guys all know, one of the things that are in high demand right now are protective items such as face masks. And one of the ways that decorators seem to be making themselves, providing value, I should say, is presenting opportunities for branding on these items. And we're talking about face masks, we're talking about face covers, we're talking about gaiters even, which can be sublimated, and that opens up a new opportunity for decoration. So what have you guys seen or heard about these, about branding opportunities on these products? And how do you think that decorators can leverage their capabilities with them?
Well, it certainly has exploded. So in my own shop, I thought at first it was exploiting the situation. That quickly changed to something else. I also thought that, wow, it's going to be so hard to explain to people the difference between a face mask that protects you like a medical mask and a face covering. No more. I mean, that everybody knows the difference now. So we started with really promoting bandanas because those clearly aren't medical, and then gaiters, masks. So I recently sent all the emails I had from suppliers of masks, and it's about 175 different people offering masks of some kind. So it's really exploded. And if you look at places like where I live in Massachusetts, it's obligatory. California, a lot of places, I mean, people are choosing to wear them. People are required to wear them. To, you know, if we're not going to test enough and quarantine enough, we're going to need masks, and for a long time. Not to mention the barrier about wearing masks is done for. I mean, you know, I was in Japan. If somebody was sick, they would wear a mask. That's going to happen here now. It wouldn't have happened before. So there's 330 million Americans. These are like socks, right? You wear them, they get kind of dirty. Yeah. And only they're on your face, not your feet. So you are not having one mask. You are not having two masks. You know, maybe for a while people are washing them in the sink, but as they go out, they're going to need a drawer full of masks. Right. And so multiply 20 times even the half of America that's going to wear masks all the time, and you're talking about billions, not even millions. Add to that we're not Japanese people, where the premier said, I think you should all wear white masks. That isn't happening here. You know, I don't think Beyonce is wearing a white mask. Yeah. She's probably wearing one with gold thread and whatever. And people are, you know, that are styling are going to style their masks. And we already see that. They want decoration. They want them, you know, we're the people also that do the custom orders for people. And all of that is exploding with the decoration, the types of masks, you know, and everybody was happy with getting a white one. Now all the suppliers are going to have blue ones. Soon we'll know the filtration rate, the exact size, how they can be decorated, how many ply it is. All of that is, as the consumer gets more educated, both for the health and the decoration, it's going to explode.
Yeah, we've actually seen so much response to this after we were doing so many of the masks with the different companies around the industry for the government. It was crazy how quickly we got responses back. Hey, when are we getting them? When are we getting them? When can they get out to the market where we can buy them? Yeah, we did the same thing as everybody else. We got our face covers out there, so it was kind of a better than nothing. And then we launched our PA mask kit, which was a kit that people could put together on their own. And now we just launched 5 new ones, which will be a PA mask that's similar to the ones we did for the government. We're going to have a fashion mask in our district line. We're going to have a gaiter. We're going to have bandanas. I mean, and all these things are specific to that fashion trend on this, because like Rick was saying, everybody's going to have multiples. It's not going to be 1 or 2, and they might have one day where they're going to go out and ride their bike and they're going to wear a gaiter, where the next day they're going to be walking around a shop and they're going to have on a more a regular mask. And I'd say the other big thing we're looking at is something that Rick touched on, is that representation part, right? People want to go out and represent their kids' sports team, the school they belong to, their sports affiliation, whatever it is, anything that they're passionate about, they're going to want it on their mask. It's absolutely incredible. And then one of the things we're just now launching is our spec sheet that'll go with each individual mask. Like Rick was saying, it's going to have where you can decorate it, recommended places to decorate it, recommended techniques, tips from our experts, people like Rick that we talk to and say, hey, what's best practice for us to do these? So all of that stuff is going to be face forward online for our decorators to consume as they need.
I think you're going to see some decoration techniques really take off. In some ways, the pandemic it just accelerates everything. I mean, like the death of retail. That was kind of happening anyway. There's my friend had told me this a while ago, and I checked it out. There was 23 square feet of retail space before this happened for every American, and in France and England, there's 5 square feet. So this was going to collapse anyway a bit. This just accelerated it. So, I think that sublimation's been on the rise, transfers have been on the rise, and those with masks are just going to accelerate tremendously.
Yeah, I think the other technique is you're going to see a lot of, and people are going to jump into, is pad printing.
Yes.
It's so simple, it's so fast, and you can get into small, tiny areas around a mask and not have to worry about lining up. You basically put it under it, hit it with the...
Well, the other thing about transfers, sublimation, and pad printing is that with these multiply masks, it's one of the easiest ways to decorate, because otherwise you can't, you don't really want to glue the mask down. I mean, some companies like Action Engineering has like a hold down. It's sort of like a jacket hold down, only it's like tiny, and there are some methods to screen print that way. But then with regular screen printing, you just got to worry about blocking the air holes.
Right.
Whereas sublimation goes into the threads and it doesn't block any airflow.
Yeah.
So,
I think the other thing people have asked us a lot about is actually doing embroidery on these masks. And I don't want people to shy away from embroidering these things. There are ways to do it where you can still reseal the back with a product from Madeira. I think it's called Easy Lam, or you can use any kind of fusible backing. So you don't want to do a big embroidery around the mask, but you can definitely do, small hits, little personalization, things that, nurses, for example, they might have the company logo on one side and nurse so-and-so on the other side, because they're consistently putting on reusable or disposable gowns that are blocking their name tags. So having their nurse name on here, that's another big thing. So if you do that, just reseal the back of it. That's really all you've got to do.
That's a good point. The thing that really has kind of resonated with me is just the breadth of products that are offered by people with, it doesn't matter your decorating capability. I've seen online shops like in Etsy shops where people are offering these types of masks, obviously not at a high volume, but it's like anybody can get in on this because of the demand and the fact that these products are so popular.
Yeah.
What else you got on your list there?
All right. So going to the next topic, one of the things that we are routinely focused on now after, the states are starting to reopen, people rightly so are focused on what's the new normal? How do we come out of this? Where do we go from here, or when we're back in our shop and we're operating not at full capacity, but some sense of normalcy is starting to prevail? How do we navigate that new normal? What does that mean for business? What do we look for in terms of marketing, in terms of attracting new clients, in terms of attracting new workers? Some workers that may have been let go from a previous job or a competitor. How is there a way that we can attract that new talent?
I think one thing that you want to look for with that is, as the unemployment starts to wane, right? So right now they have their unemployment to a certain amount of time. I believe that you will see an influx of people looking for more work, right? And there could be some talent out there that we have.
August 1st.
Yeah, right. It's going to be around the corner.
It's the supplemental unemployment ends June 30th, right? I mean, July 30th.
So that's when people are going to start looking for jobs again. And we want to be out there and ready for those folks. I know we're going to be looking as well, just make sure we can keep as many people employed as possible. But the biggest thing I've been telling everybody, all the decorators that I work with, is now is the time to invest into social media. They have got to get their company online, talk about their services, talk about their offerings, and get on Instagram, get on Facebook, get on anything and everything they like. If they're a Snapchat company, whatever it happens to be, get your followers on there as well, because that's how you're going to expand, and that's how people today are going to look for new businesses. And you've got to come up with something new. Because I'd say the other big thing I tell everybody is now is the time. Spend this time to invest into your education for your company. It is now time to look for new things to do. Rick owns a shop. He can attest to this. In the busy times, when you're sitting there thinking, I want to try silicone inks, but I'm busy. We're not going to do it right now. Well, if you're not busy right now, now is the time to call your ink suppliers and get into what's new. If you've never tried water-based, trust me, now is the time. Dial that kind of stuff in.
We're totally working on projects. So I've been working on a project where we use recycled paint to print posters. So we're working on that. And then we're working on something more basic, the outside of our building. We're trying to make nicer. We had to do a little landscaping out there, that's been put off. And, it is definitely a time to reinvest in the business. So we're putting together some Here for Good sites. So more art, more web stuff, more mailing lists, all that kind of stuff you're going to have to do more and more. How can we efficiently do digital printing? Because that's what's coming already, and now it's going to be, a storm. So we're trying to organize for all that, doing fulfillment. You're going to have to add other services because we're just not going to print as many T-shirts as we were. I just don't see that happening for a while.
What do you guys think about ways of reaching your customers in terms of your offerings, such as web stores and e-commerce? Exploring that, do you guys think that's a wise thing to do?
Yeah, that's big, and understanding who the platforms are. So take your time to do research and make sure you find the ones that match what you're trying to do with your fundraiser, whether it happens to be a school fundraiser, a fundraiser for a local bar that you used to go to. I belong to the ones for my gym that I usually go to. And we're trying to keep money raised, so we keep the people there and we keep it open, right? Because I think that's the biggest thing I'm looking at is when some of these places come back in, I want them to open full force. I mean, there's people that, I'll be honest, I miss my bar that I used to go to. I miss my gym. I mean, there's so many things I can't wait to open. So I'm doing everything I can to support them so they can reopen.
Sure. So that kind of brings me back to bringing back employees. Obviously, states are kind of dictating the pace at which people bring their employees back, and for many decorators, small, medium, or large, they kind of have to think about when it's feasible to bring back most of their employees or all of their employees, and do so at a rate that's best for their business. So do you guys have any thoughts about that? The best way to go about doing that? What you have to consider before you start bringing your employees back?
So we stayed open, but on a very limited basis to begin with. And basically we had 4 people in 20,000 square feet. And we made sure that they stayed as far away from each other as possible.
Sure.
And I see people worrying about everything. You can't worry about everything. It seems like virus is not going to go down the dryer. It's not going to be on shirts particularly. It's hard surfaces and mainly in closed spaces. So you really got to keep people apart. You got to have them have face masks. Every person for us has sanitizer, and they also have disinfectant, and they disinfect their workstations before and after, so that kind of get double disinfected. We've got people working different hours, whether that's at night or on weekends. The more you can keep people apart, the better. We're operating our auto presses with one person instead of two. Eventually, we've built some, or we're building some sort of dividers so that you can build them out of either cheap electrical conduit or plastic piping and pallet wrap and I see people, well, that's not going to stop virus. But you know what, if you look at the epidemiological studies of like where someone in a restaurant infected everyone else, like the air conditioner was blowing and everybody was, infected downwind. So you really want to watch out for that kind of thing. I mean, in Germany, they have the windows open, right? In the schools. And so you got to think of everything you can to protect people. I think the bathrooms in particular got to be clean, door handles, anything that people touch a lot. And you got to stay away from each other. That's really key. And that's not the way we humans normally act. So it's really impresses upon people to keep them apart. And that whether that's distance or time, somehow they're apart, and let as many people as work at home as can.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big things that we see is anybody who can work from home should. If you're an artist, if you do anything digital, if you're taking orders or sales, it may be a good idea to stay at home. Looking at how you visit with a customer, right? Because you'd ask, how can these people still engage? I mean, honestly, use Zoom. I have had some of the greatest meetings via virtual meeting, and if we've had 20, 30, 40 people in this meeting and completely engaged. Have a good presentation put together so you can actually put your services in front of these people. And then for the future, if you're getting really close to a big order and they need to see something, now is the time to invest in doing samples, right? Because if you got an opportunity for 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 units, maybe you need to send them a sample.
Sure. Yeah, I think this pandemic has definitely forced us to think outside the box when it comes to our virtual capabilities and embracing that technology. Because, typically, I think that depending on how long you've been around and been in the business, there are some people that have been slow to embrace virtual technology, remote working, teleworking, working from home. And the truth is, we all have that technology and those capabilities. So it's good and it's appropriate to use it when we can.
Yeah.
To promote safety and health.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for example, a couple of years ago, we went to using tablets instead of paper orders, but certain people were still going to paper stuff, and just accelerated it. So now everyone has their own tablet, so that they don't touch it. And it's probably for the better. It wasn't just because of the pandemic. I mean, where possible, you want to have solutions for this that actually help you going forward. You don't want to just do it during the pandemic.
I think the barriers you were talking about, Rick, were something I'm seeing in shops. I'm seeing it at Home Depot. I'm seeing it at Lowe's. I mean, any place that you can go into to buy things today, you're starting to see plexiglass barriers up in front between you and that person. And whereas that's not going to stop a virus, no, but it's going to stop that immediate interaction. Right. And they've had all these memes and things out there about how that's really what it is. If you got a mask on and they got a mask on and you got a barrier between you, you're doing pretty good work there.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I actually was watching Good Morning America this morning, and they were talking about, just from an office space perspective, a lot of companies are inserting barriers between workstations.
Right.
Workstations that can't be the required 6 feet apart, they put barriers between them, and so it's definitely penetrating the office culture too.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that we get word of at Impressions, and we're very happy to hear about this kind of thing, is that decorators are initiating fundraising campaigns during the pandemic to help out other decorators and other local businesses. One of the examples that comes to my mind is Tiny Little Monster in St. Louis with their campaign a fundraising campaign that they did, Here for Good.
Well, how cool was that? That also she gave that idea away. She did not.
Yeah, exactly.
When I heard about it, I was like, I'd like to do it, but someone must own that. I don't want to step on their toes.
Exactly.
And then she was in our series that we did for the Ink Kitchen, and she spoke about giving it away. I mean, how generous is that?
Absolutely.
Like, amazing. Set a tremendous example. So we're doing Here for Good stores for Rhode Island, where our business is, for Massachusetts, where I live and I have more customers and contacts. And we're doing one that's just for farms.
Okay.
Hard hit some of them because they sell to restaurants. So, and they can't have their farmers markets. So we're going to do those three. We should be launching them this weekend. And, you know, what a gift for her to do that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And as I understand it, her fundraising model has been kind of the basis or the model for other decorators that have launched fundraising campaigns as well. So what I'm curious about is identifying a target for fundraising, right? The ways that you can go about doing that, and then how to explore the avenues for actually initiating the campaign.
So, I mean, for us, we've found, I think that if we have like a couple of designs that kind of fit for everyone, then we can do more volume, which is easier to print and for everyone to make more money. You know, we have digital capability, but it's obviously more expensive. So, you know, if you have, you know, I'll give an example. In North Carolina, when he's got a whole bunch of businesses signed up, and, you know, he's probably able to print hundreds of shirts at a time. And, you know, each of those businesses might only have gotten 5 or 6 people or 10 or 20. But when you have all of them, you might get to print 1,000 shirts. It brings the price down. The printer makes some money, and it's easier to give that $10 or whatever you're going to give to the businesses. So, you know, in our case, we're doing shirts, bandanas, masks, and hats. Okay. And so, you know, kind of gives some options. You know, it's whatever you got access to. We can do all those things. Maybe somebody else has access to do something else. Maybe they make mugs or something like that. You know, find what you do, and you know, I think there's pretty good cooperative atmosphere out there. I mean, it starts with SanMar cooperating with Fruit of the Loom and Hanes to solve the mask problem for hospitals. You know, maybe not solve it, but help greatly, right? With literally millions of masks. And maybe that's trickled down. I don't know. It seems to be in every direction. I see people working together and trying to help each other. And those campaigns you're talking about are like when you cooperate with your customers, and even some of them are cooperating in a way. You're the person mixing that together. What are you seeing out there, Jason?
About the same. I would say, you know, as far as campaigns and identifying, you know, where you can help, it's looking at your local affiliations, you know, who you belong to, who you work with, who your customers are today, and you know, take a look at their website, see if they have anything posted on the COVID-19. Is, you know, are they doing anything special? If they're not, you know, reach out, talk to them. I mean, what biggest thing we all need today is interaction. And I tell you, if you call one of your customers today, they're happy to pick up the phone. You know, they want to hear from you. You want to hear from them, you know, and start off your conversation with, how you doing? You know, I know when I talk to my customers, I truly want to know.
Yeah. That's definitely the way to start, Jason. You don't start like, hey, you want to buy something?
Right.
Like, I mean, some people, you know, I mean, they may have family members that died. You know what I mean? This is, what is it? It's over 80,000 at least people have died. Well, it's more and more someone's going to have known somebody. This is not a time to like be cavalier about it. But if you start with how you're doing, someone will let you know if they're interested in what you do. I mean, and they'll figure out if you're being phony too. So it better be genuine. How you doing? Nobody has time right now for people that are being frivolous.
Yeah, and I'd say the other thing, you know, when they're out there is I've seen some successful ones, and spoke with a lady yesterday up in the Central North that she put together her website. It's all based around fundraising. She's got a little portal for everybody. And, you know, she sent out a message and basically said, hey, I hope everybody's doing okay. This is an email to all of you, but I can help you. Here's an idea of how we can raise some money for your local businesses. And the response she got back was tremendous. And she's not big. She's a little place that does a lot of heat transfer vinyl. And she called me last night saying, what do I do? How do I support this? Oh my gosh, the response was huge. So we talked about it for an hour, and I think she's got a good track of going forward. So anybody can do this. I want everybody to know that it's not just the big printers that can handle this. I mean, all of you guys can do it. It's taking the time to research how, get the right platforms together, find a partner that can help you create it if you can't do it yourself. And if it gets so big that you can't manage it, reach out to somebody like Rick. Hey, I got this thing. What do I do? Can you help me out? Can you contract print for me? You know, again, everybody's working with everybody. And I can tell you honestly that what the Ink Kitchen started years ago with getting people a community, that community has grown exponentially with this pandemic because people are starting to support each other. It's incredible.
Yeah, you know what I said about in terms of look at what you do and oriented towards what you're good at. I think the other thing is, you know, for example, the Here for Good was businesses, but I'm taking it a little farther. A lot of artists I know, a lot of musicians I know, they're out of work and they're really hurting. And so, you know, in a way, every artist is their own business and every band is their own business. And, you know, they're what make life living, right, Jason?
Yep, amen.
So we're going to let, and nonprofits too, some of them are having a hard time, you know, if they, you know, artistic organizations and so forth, they can't have their events, you know? So in our case, we're going to expand to that because we have a lot of connections like that.
Yeah, I think one of the coolest things I saw recently, there's a band, Spasmatics. They're kind of an 80s, you know, throwback band, but they're popular in a lot of different places. There was a campaign, and I'm pretty sure it was them, where they were doing an online concert. It was $18, and they sent you a T-shirt, and you got an online concert. I thought that was a great idea. And I was like, man, because I'd sit there, you know, we'll cast it to the big screen and everybody can sit around and watch, you know, the band play. Yeah, you know, just like the Bell Rays, if they did it, I'd do it with them too. Right. So it's a band we both really liked. That Rick.
It's funny, when we had the Impression show in Nashville, we did a fundraiser for the homeless program there. And one of the bands that played was the ReeceU sisters, RISCHE. And Sunday nights, they play sometimes 3 hours, just like they're playing at Layla's where we had the fundraiser. And so I've been donating to them, and they're amazing because they're a family. They're not exposing the band. They all live together anyway. So the two sisters and the brother, they could play, I guess, for days and days because every Sunday they play different stuff, even though they play 2 or 3 hours. So I'll have to ask if they want T-shirts.
Yeah. But that just shows you that, you know, looking at something you're passionate about, right? So Rick and I are both passionate about music, and, you know, my whole family, I've got singers throughout my family. And it's like, for me, if I can help a band, to me, like Rick said, it's a local business to me because somebody I enjoy going to see, I will do it in a second. So the more, again, find your passion. Whether it's a local dog club, a group, cycling groups. I still see the cycling groups out, you know, they're out riding, you know, motorcycle clubs. You can find something somewhere and you can do something good for them.
Yeah, that's funny. I think you mentioned that shelters. I think some animal shelters have had a tough time, and I've seen people doing fundraisers for them. So, yeah, find your passion. What else you got, Jamar, for us?
I have one more. I was just going to say on that last topic, I think you guys are right. And just emphasizing that, you know, I think decorators, you know, by nature are just creative people. And so now is the time to leverage that creativity, that cooperation, and that ingenuity and get that out there to your customers or people that might not even be customers, people that you just see that they need something, and try to fill that need because they will remember it.
Yeah, a local restaurants is another good one. We've got a local Mexican joint down the street that we go to twice a week. And I told him last time I was in there, I said, you guys need Rodrigo shirts. I don't know why you don't have them yet, but you need some shirts because I would buy it because I miss you guys. I'm sitting there picking up my food, right? We love the food. We love the people that own it. And I can see the bar from where I'm standing. I'm like, I'm just hanging out, talking to Jorge, making me a drink, and the owner standing there. It's him and his daughter that are actually serving the food to everybody after it's made. And he's like, trust me, we miss you guys too. You know, they all want to open everything up and get people back in there. And like I said, the more we can do to support them, the better.
Okay, last topic I had thought about was we go back to e-commerce. So with Rick, you talked earlier about retail and how retail is being turned upside down on its head. Talk about exploring e-commerce opportunities as part of your regular business model. A lot of decorators don't have e-commerce capabilities or didn't think they did at the time, and now this pandemic has forced a lot of people to rethink that. So what are some ways we can go about doing that?
I mean, for us, you just, like anything, it's hard work, when you haven't done something, but it's a adjunct to our business. You have to do fulfillment kind of stuff. People want you to gang their orders for them. In some ways it's easier, right? If you have software that they can do a campaign for the school and everybody pays with a credit card, pays you, and you know what sizes they want, and you put the order and you send them out. It's easier than that tattered piece of paper somebody used to brought from the PTA dad that was forced to take all the orders and has to deal with a box full of shirts. In some ways it's progress for everybody, and you can't avoid it. You can't just wish that it would be the way it was. It's not going to be the same, and you just got to take it and do it.
Right. And the platforms, I would say that's going to be everybody's struggle who's never done it before, is finding the right partner to create web stores, to create corporate stores, things like that. I know SanMar, they have the ability to come on and actually create a store that they could show for people. But there's trying to think, like off the top of my head, you got people like Order My Gear, right? It's a big, huge platform. You can go online, create a store, get all the orders in, decorate, send out. But there's a lot of those places, and if anybody who's on here, any of our customers that need information on this, they can reach out to decoratorrelations@sanmar.com and ask about e-commerce or 3PL, anything like that, and we can turn around and call them back or send them a list of people that we've vetted out and worked with. So we can help. That is just like Rick said, that's a lot of hard work. It is difficult, but it's worth it. Definitely worth it in the long run.
I think one other thing is I think that e-commerce is on the whole more often supplied by digital and brick and mortar by screen printing, but that's not entirely true. And, it's great that you can digitally print a shirt and throw it in an envelope and mail it to somebody, but it still doesn't beat having it on the shelf already.
Right.
So, don't think that screen printing is out of the question. And then I think a lot of people don't consider transfers. I mean, a pile of transfers is not expensive, and then you're only decorating the shirt that you send out. And a transfer press isn't that expensive. Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways. Single head embroidery machine isn't that expensive, relatively speaking. So there's a lot of different ways to do these small orders for e-commerce, and everything from keeping inventory to transfers. And I think you got to be a little creative.
Yeah, with the transfers, the one thing I can tell everybody is if you're going to get into doing e-commerce and you're going to do print on demand, basically with the heat press, is one way to get through this where it's comfortable for you as a decorator or business owner is to negotiate with that customer that, look, I can print on demand for you. We're going to do it this way. Only thing you're on the hook for is X amount for the transfer. Right? Don't have to pay for anything else. We'll use them over time, and then we can reorder, and it'll reorder at the same rate, right? You'll need to tell me you may get it cheaper because it's a reorder. But you order in hundreds, you can order in hundreds, 500s, thousands, whatever it is. I had a customer who used to do UPS that would order 10,000 transfers at a time, and he would go through them one after the other, right? And because he would order them at the size, it could go on a shirt, it could go on a hat, it could go on the bottom of the shorts. They can decorate literally anything with the same transfer.
Jason, I'm glad you said that, because one thing that just came to my mind is when we talk about pricing, how difficult is it to come up with flexible pricing rates given these unique circumstances? Is that something that's advised, or should we stick to pre-pandemic pricing models?
I'll be honest with you. This is my opinion, and Rick, you probably know a lot more, but I know it's a pandemic and there's a lot going on right now. Don't devalue your service. What you do is important. Not everybody can do it, especially the creative side. So as a screen printer and myself as a past printer and embroiderer, and nowhere near Rick's level of screen printing, I knew how hard it was, right? It is not simple. So don't devalue what you offer either. You know, it's always good to do good for people, create fundraisers that you're making a little bit of money, they're making some money. That's all great. But please don't devalue what you do.
Yeah, it's kind of kind of wild out there for pricing because right now, if you got a PPP SBA loan, you might have free labor.
Right.
In some ways, it's free. They decided that those are going to not, the expenses you pay aren't going to be deductible, so it's not quite the windfall that you thought you would have. But you're competing against that sometimes. But your pricing really should be based on knowing your costs, and then you got to make a profit. And that hasn't really changed.
Yep.
In fact, maybe your expenses are up, so because you can only operate your press with one person, or some other expenses. When you got to stop and disinfect every time you do something, it's a little less efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I see more people demanding cash. So, that has a cost to it. So I don't know. You can't change your pricing that much. I don't know. If you can lower it and still make money, maybe you were charging too much,
Yeah.
Okay.
Not to digress, but just to touch on something that, as far as e-commerce goes, Rick said something about now being the time to learn, and now being the time to expand your business. I think as far as e-commerce goes, now is as good a time as any. It's now is when you need it. So if there was any better push, I don't know what it would be, but e-commerce is a good thing to have right now, being in unprecedented times and not knowing, when they might change. I think now's a good time for you to get into adjusting your business into that model for sure.
Right. No, and it's not that easy. I don't know. Somehow technology is supposed to be magic. It's not magic. It's still hard work. And but you know what? It's an opportunity if it's not that easy. Because if you figure it out, somebody else isn't going to.
Yeah.
Right. Didn't know if there were any questions from our attendees.
I haven't seen any come in, but we'll give them now that we're opening up a Q&A, we'll give them just a couple of minutes to fill in. Just one thing I'd like for you to touch on, Jamar, having your background, is there any suggestion you make as far as I'm sure y'all are doing research all the time on what shops are doing or new and improved ideas. Maybe there's something that we haven't thought about here, or any kind of suggestion that you could make in terms of maybe marketing yourself, or something new and improved that we haven't thought about in terms of PPE. Did you have anything to add there?
Well, I think Jason really hit it on the head when we talk about social media. What we tell people in the pages of our magazine, especially all the time, is if you're not into social right now, you really need to be. If you're hesitant to research it, you're probably already behind schedule, because people are jumping on social media. Your competitors are jumping on social media every day, and it's across platforms. It's Instagram, it's Facebook, it's Twitter, it's LinkedIn. All these platforms are being utilized by everyone in the decorating community, and regardless of industry, people are finding ways to use these platforms to reach their customers. And not only that, but they're finding out ways that they can more efficiently drill down and reach certain portions of their customers with different marketing messages. So you have to not only be able to use the platform, but be able to maximize its use to target specific customer groups within your clientele. So the best thing to do is to be able to, if you don't know anything about it, or if you're hesitant, throw that out the window and get on there and just take the plunge, because your competitors are doing it, and this is the way that you're going to be able to access your customers in the future, now and in the future.
A good example is, so I was online on Facebook, and all of a sudden an ad popped up on my screen, and it was this Superwoman teacher t-shirt. And I'm sitting there going, I got to have that for my wife. And I know how much it costs to make it, and I just still spent $24 on it, but it didn't matter. It fit the time. And I'm sitting here at the desk behind me. My wife was in there, and I was like, I need to get her this shirt. Because I look at what teachers are doing and, other nurses and doctors and all the first responders. I'm like, man, my job's easy compared to that. I sit in front of a computer and help people all day.
Jamar, it might have actually been you that I remember having a discussion at one of the shows about the fact that social media isn't like a thing that you get done. Like, this is an ongoing process,
Right?
That you have to invest in it continually. You know what I mean? You have to have content, whether it's your website or your email list or whatever. It can't be stagnant. You got to always work on it, work on your messaging, integrate it into your entire business, not just a one-time thing. Oh, I did the Facebook or whatever. And anybody could do it. My mom is 90 and she sends me texts with emojis, right? She's 90 years old. So it's like, if she can do that, I think we can maybe figure this out.
I think the other thing I learned with social media is the folks that are trying to use it and they're really not adept at it. I've worked with a couple marketing firms out here that work with decorators, and it really made sense from what they told me was, look, I don't know your business like you do, and I can't create your content, right? So if you can create the content, if you can go out and take video of your equipment running, show me something cool, a new technique, and this is the daily kind of things, right? Get it out there. And then if you're not comfortable doing the actual work, there are firms out there that's what they do, is social media. So if you're not good at it, you're not willing, but you can invest, and maybe invest into that, but you got to create the content. You've got to take the pictures, take the video, and tell them cool stuff to talk about. And they can be making it seem like the one I saw when I bought the t-shirt for my wife.
And
No,
that's
you
the
don't
other-
have to be.
there's-
Sorry. I think the content on social media is definitely king. And thankfully, for the most part, social media is very forgiving. So if you make a fool of yourself, there's a good chance you could go viral. I'm not giving, legal advice here to make a fool of yourself, but get out of your comfort zone. I think it could be as simple as what Jason was talking about, your machine's working. Not everything has to be a sales commercial of, someone out in front of your business trying to sell a car. Hi, welcome to this place. It's easy, and it can be easy. You don't have to put as much thought into it as you think. You just do it. And much to what you said, it's not something that you just get done. It's ongoing. Keep pushing. Content is king, so keep pushing what you can.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be that good of a decorator. I see some people that post a lot of stuff, and the printing or their decorating is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's terrible. And you know what? I don't know. They're friendly. They, a lot of people don't care that much, right? Go in any retail store, you'll see stuff that's printed, my wife or my kids or someone will say, wow, that's a great t-shirt, but it's crooked, or it's too much ink, or what have you. It's printed too low. That's a pretty common one. A lot of people don't have that kind of eye. So, you don't have to be the best decorator in the world. You can still do social media.
Right.
And
And as long as you can use social media and leverage your ability to make a connection, that's what those audience are looking for. They're looking for a connection and a reason to connect with your brand or your business. So like you said, Rick, you don't have to have everything spot on. You don't have to be the most gifted decorator. But what you do have to be able to do is make a connection with your audience and make it an authentic connection. And 9 times out of 10, that will resonate with them.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm not seeing many any questions coming through, but Jason just did exactly what I was about to say. If you guys wouldn't mind, and if you're comfortable with it, just let us know how these attendees can get in contact with you. Maybe if they have an extra question that they'd like, or they want to reach out and pick your brain about something specific. Maybe they didn't think about it during the webinar here. Would you mind giving out your contact information?
No problem.
Awesome.
Mine's just Rick at inkkitchen.com.
Man, that's easy. I mean, it's written on the hat there.
Yeah, there's always shy people. I do the shop talks at the the shows that Jamar and I work at. Jason's one of my favorite guys to interview, and that we have Q&A, and then there's always the shy person that wants to wait till 10 minutes after it's over and kind of sidle up and look like they want to ask a question. You have to ask them if they want something. So, this is kind of the way people are. So, afterwards, people want to digest this and say something. Plus, didn't we answer everybody's questions?
You're right. If there's no questions, that's a good thing. It means you touched on everything. I'm just one last thing to leave with. We had this conversation, and I asked this question 2 weeks ago, but it's funny how things change in just 2 weeks. Is there anything, if there was one thing that you could say in leaving, what's your best advice moving forward? Maybe it's hope or market yourself or what have you. Just each one of you, if there's just one last thing you want to touch on for moving forward.
Stay optimistic. You've got to. Things are starting to turn, and I would say things are starting to rebound. We were keeping a extensive list of the people that we work with that are decorators, and who was open and who was closed. And in the first couple of weeks, it was crazy. We were all pretty sad, and all of a sudden people started reopening. We get emails every day, hey, we're back in business, we're skeleton crew, but we're working. And so stay optimistic and keep pushing that optimism out to your customers, because you talk about being viral. Optimism and good vibe is always viral.
I would say two things. One is to be flexible. It's like your example before, Jason, of the can't handle things. Well, maybe you need to sub stuff out. I know one friend, he's like scared to death of subbing stuff out, but it's the way of the world. And you know what? You got to be flexible in this situation. Like in his case, he couldn't have enough workers there, and he was going to turn down work. And I finally convinced him to sub the work out. It's flexible in that way. Like you may have to get out of your comfort zone, right? Jamar, it's time to take on that social media, even though it's threatening to you. And then I think the others that we all have to stick together, and you know who your friends are. And if you don't, you'll find out pretty fast in a bad situation like this. And whether it's your bank guy or your bank woman or your, some artist that or, your trusted employees, lean on the people that you can count on, and you can get a lot done, and just leave the other people behind. I mean, it's kind of optimism as well, I guess.
Yeah, I would say stay optimistic, like Jason said, and embrace opportunities that come your way, because they're going to come, and they may not be in the form that you would normally expect, but always be looking for those opportunities, and when they do come, embrace them. And I would say also accept and be willing to make decisions that are in the best interest of your business. It may not be the decision that you want to make, but sometimes tough decisions do have to be made, and you have to be willing to make them. So make those decisions authoritatively and decisively. And also, if I may, reach out to me anytime at Impressions Magazine. My name is Jamar Laster, and my email address is jamar.laster, that's JAMAR.LASTER @emeraldx, that's EMERALD and the letter X.com. We have a COVID-19 area on our page where we invite decorators and suppliers to come and tell us their story. You don't always have to be contacted by an Impressions editor if you don't want to, but we love hearing the stories of people that are reaching out to community members and instigating and facilitating partnerships with others in the community. And that really uplifts us. And I know that reading those stories uplifts other decorators as well. So please don't hesitate to send us a story or share a story with us about what you're doing and how you're doing.
Yeah, that's great.
Hey, Don asked a question that I'd actually like to hear from you. What do you think the near future of industry trade shows are?
Well,
I want them to come back.
Right. I mean, we're all optimistic that everything will return to normal sooner rather than later. We've had in situations where we had to cancel our Baton Rouge event, and we had to reschedule Orlando and Atlantic City. Beyond that, I can't really comment, but we certainly are optimistic about our plans for the future, and we're just trying to make the best decisions to keep our attendees and our customers and our employees safe, and that's what we're doing. We're working with, for any scheduled shows, we're working with the facilities to make sure that all CDC guidelines are going to be followed. But, as far as the future, we're optimistic about a return to normal.
Just generally, I've got a question for all three of you that speaks to trade shows. How do you think COVID-19 will change trade shows moving forward? I mean, we're already touching elbows, keeping 6 feet. Yeah, we're touching the part that they tell us to cough into, which is curious to me, but on a different note, how do you think that it's going to change trade shows just in general, not just their dates, of course?
I think it's going to be. It's hard to describe. I mean, for me, I've tried to put my brain around what it may look like, and we have a lot more smarter people with trade shows than me at our company that are handling this and trying to figure out what it could potentially look like. But I think it's the whole, a lot less handshaking, a lot of hand sanitizer everywhere, face masks being worn. And I'll tell you honestly, one of the biggest things I'm going to miss is the customers I've known for 25 years is getting a hug. I look forward to seeing these people every year, and you've known these people either since they were very, very little and have expanded, or maybe they're still very, very little and just happy. But you've known them for so long. I'm going to miss that. I'll miss the interaction for sure.
Yeah, I think people are smart and resourceful. I mean, Josh Caruth, who runs the shows who works with Jamar, he's one of the most creative, dynamic people I've ever met, actually. So I have no doubt that he will have a lot of solutions, whether it's wider aisles or, just the level of cleanliness, or, I'm sure that he'll figure out something. And, maybe you'll get less casual people going for a little while, but that'll mean more serious people. So the trade shows will still happen. I think a lot of things that happen, you don't have to get that close to people. So it's, maybe more people will drive for a while. It's hard to say, the questions that we have to answer about the trade shows are the questions we have to answer about society in general in some ways. So it's all going to come.
Yeah, and I think in addition to following obviously the health regulations and CDC guidelines, I think that what you'll see is a lot of emphasis on education, more emphasis on education, and doing that maybe in more of a digital platform. And I know that we have our eyes toward solutions in that arena for digital learning to enhance our conference programs and things like that. So I think that's going to be a major point of emphasis in the future.
That's awesome. Well, I'm not seeing any other questions come in, but again, these gentlemen have all given you their contact information. And then, of course, you can contact Reece at any time. We've got plenty of reps available to answer your questions. If there is anything else that you guys want to say, speak now or not forever, hold your peace. We hope to do these more of these in the future, of course. But any last thoughts or?
Have a good week.
Yeah.
Have a good week. Stay safe, everyone.
Be careful.
Definitely. All right. Well, thanks again, guys, for, of course, being passionate about the industry, but also being open to share your thoughts and suggestions to people to help further and empower them in their business. We can't say thank you very much. And thanks to everybody for attending and listening to all of us talk. We enjoyed being able to be here for you. So with that being said, thanks so much, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Right. Bye. Thank you.